I first realized something was wrong the moment I stepped through the back door of my parents' house and into a whirlwind of laughter, clinking glasses, and the heady aroma of grilled lamb. The garage door was propped open, string lights draped across metal rafters, and folding chairs encircled a battered tool chest. My mom's friends, women in floral summer dresses and heels, milled about inside, sipping rosé and nibbling on charcuterie, while my dad greeted arriving guests in the foyer with his booming laugh. "Ah, Julia," he called out as I emerged from the garage ramp. "Glad you could make it. We've saved you a prime spot." He waved me toward the lone folding chair, facing away from the dance floor, stationed beside a stack of rusted bicycles and my father's vintage lawnmower. My chest tightened. Behind me, my older brother Marcus slipped inside, arms slung around his fiancée's shoulders, disappearing into the warmly lit living room. "Mom said to just grab a seat out here," my dad explained, as if we were at a boat show rather than her 40th wedding anniversary celebration. He chuckled self-consciously, adding, "You know how we've run out of room." I hid my flush, lowered myself onto the chair, and tried to look cheerful. From here I could see the buffet table, rosewood platters heaped with prosciutto, wrapped asparagus, lemon oregano chicken skewers, and garlic butter grilled shrimp. Beyond, the yard twinkled with lanterns, hanging from maple branches, a garden fountain burbling soothingly. Inside, the living room's open doors revealed a dance floor where my dad's old high school band, retro rock covers, had the older guests swaying to Brown-Eyed Girl. I clutched my clutch purse, perched at the garage's edge, my heels inching painfully into gravel. I breathed in the scent of motor oil and fresh basil from the kitchen, trying to steady my racing thoughts. Why me? Why had my parents, the people who once fussed over my kindergarten concerts and stayed late to help me practice the piano, banished me to the garage? Flashback. 12 years earlier, I was 11, standing on my tiptoes at the kitchen counter, stirring a bowl of pancake batter as my mom braided my hair. My dad bustled around, making coffee and hollering, "Breakfasts in 5, team." I beamed because that morning, my pancakes, blueberry lemon ricotta, were the featured item on our family's weekend menu. My parents tasted, then clapped. "McConnell's morning special," Dad declared, sliding that first fluffy cake onto my pink flowered plate. "Nothing but the best for our chef in training." Mom snapped a photo, then posted it on her foodie blog, tagging me #PancakeQueen. I remember hearing Dad rave about the fierce independence I showed in recipe tweaks, and Mom telling me, "One day you'll run circles around us in the kitchen." In my mind, I was part of the family team, valued, spotlighted, loved. The memory wobbles in the present haze of lantern light. I realized the garage seat embodied more than a makeshift overflow. It was a boundary, a reminder that since moving home after college, I'd never quite measured up to their expectations. My dream job in marketing, my late-night pottery classes, my impromptu pop-up art shows in town, none of it seemed to count. I scanned the crowd, my cousin Elaine whispering in my aunt's ear and giggling. My high school nemesis, Lydia, skinny and chic in a black cocktail dress, giving me an exaggerated wave across the yard. My best friend Marcus's college roommate, giving me a sympathetic smile before ducking inside. Even the caterer's staff seemed to dart around, whispering, "Garage, yeah, that's the overflow." I closed my eyes for a moment, inhaled the cool spring breeze, scented with jasmine and gasoline, and exhaled. Fine. If they wanted me out here, they'd get me out here. But I didn't have to stay silent. I waited until Dad took the stage for his toast. He cleared his throat, brandy in hand, and the music dimmed. The crowd hushed, and I leaned forward on my folding chair, propping my chin on my hand. "Thank you all for coming to celebrate 40 years of love and laughter," Dad began, voice booming. He waxed nostalgic first date at the local coffee house, arguing over horse races, building our family from 2 to 5, including me, the wild card. Laughter rippled. Then he paused. I couldn't have asked for better partners. He gestured to Mom, who beamed in her emerald dress. "And our children," he continued. The audience turned to the living room door. "Marcus, my rock, always there with an extra hand. And Julia," he hesitated, scanning the empty chairs inside, before spotting me in the garage. "Julia, my little chef, my wild card." He smiled fondly, then glanced down at the bikes. "We thought we'd give her a quiet spot to reflect while the rest of us make merry." Laughter tinkled, some warm, some forced. I felt my jaw clamp shut. Then I rose, smoothing my clutch under my arm. The strumming guitar chords of Hotel California rose and eyes swiveled. I stood, calm but resolute, walking through the string lights into the yard. I felt shockingly like a reborn 11-year-old pancake cook again, but bigger, a grown woman with a degree, clients, and a future. I paused beneath the lantern canopy and raised my voice, loud enough to hush the nearest group by the buffet. "Dad," I said, heart thumping but voice steady. "Mom," all eyes fixed on me. "Thank you for the anniversary party. It's beautiful." He raised an eyebrow. Mom's smile faltered. I continued. "I see you made sure my seat was convenient." Murmurs stirred. Lydia's eyebrow quirked. Marcus's fiancée looked shocked. "But I think if you'd checked your contractor's invoice, you'd have realized the folding chairs in the garage cost the same as my portrait session last month, and it's in the home I've paid rent on for 2 years. So I brought something." I reached into my clutch, pulled out an envelope. "This is the broker's offer sheet for that plot behind the house, the one Dad always says would be perfect for a guest cottage. I've paid the deposit and the down payment in cash." Gasps. I cleared my throat. "It's mine now. So if you need overflow seating, you're welcome to rent from me." Silence cracked like ice. Lydia sank onto a bench. My mom reached out. Dad's brandy glass trembled in his hand. I pressed on, and while we're discussing costs, I noticed none of my artwork was featured in the decor. No photos of my pottery, no prints from my Etsy store. I've arranged for custom pieces to hang here, on consignment. A 20% cut, payable quarterly. House rule. More gasps. Aunt Elaine's jaw dropped. Even the caterer paused mid-pour. Mom's cheeks turned pink. Dad's smirk slid sideways, confusion rippling. He stuttered, "Julia, sweetheart, I held up a finger. "There's one more thank you I owe you for teaching me that if you leave me out in the cold, I'll build my own house, literally where everyone's seat is in the living room." I nodded to the plot beyond the lane, green and open, where autumn leaves would fall on my new cottage's stone pathway. Marcus rose, stepping beside me. "I'm proud of you, Jules." He swept his arm around my shoulders. Guests murmured approval, some rising in applause. Lydia looked sheepish. My high school nemesis actually clapped. Dad swallowed. Mom bit her lip. I felt a warm glow, not of anger but of triumph and belonging to myself first, and then perhaps to them again. I sank back into a chair, this time one of the plush velvet seats reserved for close family on the patio. Dad joined me, Mom at my side. I slipped back into celebration mode, lifting a flute of champagne conjured from the bar. Dad cleared his throat. "Darling, can I have a toast?" I nodded. "Go ahead." He raised his glass. "To Julia, my daughter, who built the house I never realized I needed. May it have a dining room big enough for us all. And I promise, from now on, your seat will always be inside." Laughter and clinking glasses rippled across the lawn. The high school band resumed. Brown-eyed girl and guests drifted back to the dance floor under lantern light, carrying shrimp skewers and champagne. Mom whispered in my ear. "I'm sorry." I hugged her. "Welcome to the dining room." As the night stretched on, lanterns dimming, laughter echoing, I realized the garage seat was only the beginning. This anniversary became the pivot point, where I claimed not just a place under the lights, but a part in my own story, and reminded my parents that family means ensuring everyone's seat is in the living room, not the garage. The air inside the newly built cottage was warm with fresh paint and pale pine, sunlight dancing through widow's walks and onto half-assembled furniture. I stood in the center of the great room, imagining a long harvest table stretching from wall to wall, enough space for every seat my parents ever made me take in the garage. Outside, a gentle breeze stirred the maple leaves I'd planted the day we poured the foundation. Marcus hovered at my elbow. "I still can't believe you did it," he said, marveling at the bare studs and shiny stainless steel appliances in boxes. I pocketed my phone, still glowing with congratulations, and ran a hand along a smooth oak beam. "You have no idea what it feels like, to go from a folding chair in a carport to building my own corner of the world." I pointed toward the window bay, overlooking the yard. "That's where I'll sit with Ella, watching the seasons change." He nodded, then cleared his throat. "You know Dad and Mom have asked if they can hold Christmas here." I turned to him, eyebrows raised. "They did?" He grinned. "Yeah, they said something about booking your spaces officially now." He laughed softly. "Sounds like they're taking their seats back." I smiled, warmth blooming. "I think they earned those front row spots." 3 months later. The cottage was now a lived-in home. Ella's art supplies littered the sunroom. Her tiny table and chairs sat beside my pottery wheel. My studio, once an alcove, was now lined with floating shelves displaying my ceramics, paintings, and greeting card designs. A side table held my diploma portfolio and a framed photo of Dad, Mom, and me toasting at their anniversary party. I shut down my laptop at 6 p.m. and hopped onto my bicycle, breezing down the lane toward my parents' house. Their golden anniversary party had become an annual tradition. This year, vowed Mom, would be the best yet, hosted not in the garage but in the yard beside my cottage. As I rounded the bend, I spotted string lights and tables draped in linen, plates piled with grilled lamb skewers, my own recipe, and a gleaming new little shed. Dad's man cave, he'd called it, now repurposed as a photo booth, stocked with simple props and a backdrop of wildflowers. Inside the house, I found Mom in the kitchen, stirring what smelled like butternut squash risotto, the aroma mingling with fresh basil. "Jules!" she exclaimed, wrapping me in a hug. "Happy homecoming." I hugged back. "Happy anniversary, Mom." She guided me to the porch. There Dad stood by the photo booth, his cheeks rosy, tallying up the couple dozen prints laid across the table. He looked up and winked. I laughed. "How many memories do we need?" He smiled, pride shining. "More than there are garage seats in the world." Sunset toast as golden light streamed through the maple canopy. Dad tapped his glass. The chatter quieted, and everyone turned to the front of the yard. Family, friends, neighbors. Carter and Meredith, Ella's godparents now, stood beside Liza, no longer a nemesis but a friend, and Rochelle, who'd apologized for the garage night. Even Lydia had shown up in a chic jumpsuit, her own apologies genuine. Dad cleared his throat, voice thick with emotion. "It's been 40 years since your mother and I said I do. Today we celebrate not just our love, but the love of family, new and old, near and far." He gestured to me. "And especially our daughter, who taught us that if you leave someone out, they'll build their own door, and that doors are meant to be opened." Laughter rippled. I met his eye and raised my glass. He gestured to me to continue. I held the mic, heart ringing. "Thank you all for coming. When Mom and Dad asked me to host their anniversary, I thought they meant in their house. I built this place because I needed room to grow, and room to include everyone I love." I gestured to my parents. "Thank you for learning that when you make room at your table, you make room in your heart." Glasses clinked, and the setting sun polished the moment in rose gold. I glanced at Ella, grinning in her flower girl dress, holding Marcus's hand. She waved and blew me a kiss. The evening's revelry after the toasts, the band launched into Here Comes the Sun, and we danced barefoot on the lawn. My pottery class friends swayed with the neighbors. My mother's book club crew hopped into an impromptu conga line. Even Dad, bottom button of his jacket undone, twirled Mom under a bistro light arch. I slipped off my shoes and joined the circle, laughter bubbling as we formed a human chain. The smell of lavender from the garden beds merged with rosemary from the chicken skewers and the sweet tang of lemonade. Later, near the fire pit Dad had built, I found Gregory Steele, Carter's mentor, under the maple tree. He held 2 mugs of spiced cider. "You did good, Julia," he said, handing me a mug. "Your place here, your vision. This is more than a party. It's a homecoming." I inhaled the smoky wood and cider's warmth. "Thank you, Gregory. We're finally home." He nodded, sipping. "Family can be messy, especially when you're building new rooms in old houses. But you've nailed the blueprint." I smiled, heart full. Beside me, Dad joined, handing me his mug. "Cheers," he said. I clinked mugs with them. Cheers. Late that night, under the canopy of stars, the party lingered. Couples sat on picnic blankets. Children roasted marshmallows on Dad's fire pit. I found Mom standing at the edge of the garden, gazing at the moonlit cottage. She patted her pockets, pulling out the original post-it note she'd stuck on the garage chairs. We compared it silently, neither of us needing words. Finally, I took her hand. We both learned something. She squeezed my hand. "I learned family isn't just blood and walls. It's the people you welcome in." I pulled her into a hug. "And I learned family means making space, sometimes literally, for everyone you love." We watched the fire's embers drift upward. Epilogue: a year later, my parents' golden anniversary rolled around, 50 years this time, and I sat at a seat of honor at my own dining table in the cottage, surrounded by grandchildren, nephews, nieces, and friends. The tool sheds behind me were converted into a children's playhouse and an art studio. The lawn overflowed with laughter and balloons, not folding chairs in a garage. My parents, looking impossibly cool in matching linen vests, clinked their glasses with mine. We toasted 5 decades of love, resilience, and shared growth. Dad cleared his throat. To Julia, who taught us that family isn't a building, but the heart inside it. Mom added, and to home wherever we open the door. I looked around at the faces glowing in lantern light. My daughter Ella leading the conga line in her own coral dress, proofs of a family that redefined belonging. I felt the memory of the garage seat slip into the past, an old chapter replaced by a house full of open doors and living rooms big enough for us all. And I whispered, under that golden lantern glow, welcome home.